Question 1. Which of the following most accurately expresses the main conclusion of the economist's argument? Economist. Every business strives to increase its productivity, for this increases profits for the owners and the likelihood that the business will survive. But not all efforts to increase productivity are beneficial to the business as a whole. Often, attempts to increase productivity decrease the number of employees, which clearly harms the dismissed employees as well as the sense of security of the retained employees. Now, of course, with the main conclusion question, you're really, at first, just trying to use common sense to say, okay, why did this person get up in the morning to write this? If they could tell me only one thing, but they know I would believe them or do what they say, what would that be? So, one way this might seem a little tricky when you analyze it is that in that first sentence, there's actually its own little sort of conclusion premise structure. You've got every business tries to increase its productivity. Well, why do they do that? Well, because it will increase profits and then they'll survive, and we can assume they like surviving. But the fact that within that one little sentence there's that conclusion premise structure doesn't actually mean anything about the main conclusion of the economist's argument. They're not trying to run around, grab everyone by the shoulder, shake them, and say and convince them that businesses try to be more productive. I think they assume that besides the word every, which does make this a little extreme in the real world, should be a little hedged, but, that's really just being stated as a fact. And then what they're saying in the second sentence is sort of ironically, but trying to increase your productivity can actually harm your business. So sometimes you're striving to hurt yourself without knowing it, I suppose, if you're a business man, woman, or just abstract entity. And then the third sentence says why this could backfire, right? That if you try to increase productivity, you will decrease the number of employees. Really? I'm not even going to try to analyze that. So we're not going to hire more people, we're going to fire people. Not more efficient, more productive? Okay, I'm not the point, not going to worry about it. But of course, right, firing people makes them unhappy, freaks everyone else out, as we can see, as a euphemism for freaks them out. But again, this is a weird fact, and of course you've got 45 seconds or so to do all of this, so you're not really going to dwell on it. But again, just to black box it, who cares? This is not the reason that this person got up the morning to tell us anything. This is not what they're trying to convince us of. It's an interesting and slightly implausible paradox. Again, if you take productivity, which I would assume means the gross amount of stuff you're making, versus efficiency, which would be more of a ratio of, man hours to stuff. That's the sort of distinction that doing too much LSAT makes you compulsively make. But putting all that aside, the real issue here is that, this sentence right there, the fact that this could backfire is the economist's point. That is, if they could convince us of just one thing and not have to tell us any of the supporting facts, what they would say is trying to increase your productivity could backfire, right? They just want to make us a little paranoid about that. Then we might ask, well, how will it make it backfire? And they'll say that, well, you might fire people to do that. And of course, there's just some enormous flaw in the logic here, where the fact that this harms the dismissed employees really has absolutely nothing to do, just from a cold logical sense, with benefiting the business as a whole or not benefiting the business as a whole. But again, these are all distractions. These are all things that I only bring up here to point out that if you got this wrong, you probably didn't ignore them. Or, I don't know, let's look at the answers and, see what faked you out. All right. A. If an action, so if an action taken to secure the survival of the business fails to enhance the welfare of the business's employees, that action cannot be good for the business as a whole. Okay, now one nice thing about this answer that lets us just say no is that I don't even have to think about it too closely thanks to this phrase. The action cannot be good for the business as a whole. No matter how dubious this argument actually may be, this conclusion is nice and hedgy. It's just saying this might backfire. Not all efforts to do thing X have the good result Y that you'd expect. Some do bad thing Z, or not Y, or I don't care. But the point is that there's just no way that this could be this guy's conclusion. I apologize that I keep thinking this economist is male. Incidentally, you could just assume it's because he's an idiot. But I digress. The point here being that, yeah, that is just not possible as an answer, because no matter what the economist is saying, even if you don't quite get it, there's no way that can match up. Now, if you were to analyze it further, there's other problems with it as well, that, you know, the action harming the business's employees can't ever help the business. I'm not even going to get into it. B. Some measures, ooh, I like this one already, it's nice and squishy, like that, you know, not all, taken by a business to increase productivity fail to be beneficial to the business as a whole. Now that sounds great. That, of course, is the right answer, I think we can say right now, because it says exactly what that sentence says. Let's look at the rest. C, only if the employees, I already don't quite like this because only if is, again, sort of extreme in a way that the conclusion is not. The employees of a business are also its owners. Oh, dear God. Will the interests of the employees and owners coincide, enabling measures that will be beneficial to business as a whole? That is fascinating. That is exactly the kind of answer choice you could get trapped in for a day if you have not sort of tried to figure out what the conclusion is on your own. That kind of adds interesting things to the story, and thus is wrong. There is no business that does not make efforts to increase its productivity. Well, again, that is really just for the people who got suckered into thinking that's the conclusion of the argument, because it is sort of the conclusion of this two-part sentence here. No. Decreasing the number of employees in a business undermines the sense of security of retained employees. Again, we can see here that that is just that particular premise. And again, if you want to know why that is not the conclusion, well, it's being said, you know, the word clearly is kind of a giveaway in that context, in that they're stating it as if it is a fact of the universe we can't argue with, and that is the rules of the game. Anyway, so the answer is B. Hopefully that took you less than 9 minutes.